Hello and welcome to another FinTech Insider Live Q&A. You may notice something or someone is missing. There's no David today. Woohoo! No, we're just kidding. David's very busy with a client and we miss him dearly. We are going to get through another list of questions that you sent in to fintechinsidernews.com. And as always, we have Zoe helping us out with those questions. So, well, let's just get started. Zoe, what's the first question?
So, question one from Fegan. How does an organisation transition from death by committee to an agile working environment without completely starting again or creating an A-team in a different sub-project?
Ooh, there's a good question. Gary Fagan, hats off to you, sir. I need to think about that one. Jason, do you have any thoughts there?
Yes. I guess the question is, why do you want to? I mean, there's a bias in the question, obviously, that committee and controls and slowness of change is a bad thing. But actually, in a variety of settings, it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing. If I'm taking, a painkiller, I want to have known that that's been tested on a variety of ways, that actually it's been through a variety of committees, and that something that can have a significant impact on people's lives, you're taking your time to make sure that it's the right thing. And so to a certain extent, with banks and large financial services organisations, there are controls in place for a good reason. You know, with millions of customers and with granny's pension and life savings in your account, do you want to be messing things about as you go? I'm not sure that you do. So I think it's slightly unfair. I think the question's biased. There are some things that you want slow change for, and there are some things that you want fast change for. So if you're saying there's only one speed of change across my business, I think that's the wrong thing.
I think there's definitely an argument to be made for that. The exception being innovation can't escape the death grip of false certainty, or certainty that's required in other places. So if I'm building a new business and I want to see if it's going to work and see if it's going to be profitable, do I do that inside of committees? It's a question of, am I doing something that is a new product launch on an existing set of features or a slight change? If it's that efficiency stuff, actually that old business is probably fine, and keep doing the efficiency stuff, keep thinking about how you do governance. Lord knows what big banks do is hard. However, to do something new, that's perhaps an area where I certainly think that it's harder to do inside the organisation. You can't hope to be a brand new business with a brand new business model and inherit everything that you already had. I don't think you can. There aren't many animals that can go from caterpillar to butterfly. In fact, there's probably only that one that can do quite that transformation, right? So I think there is a myth of transformation when you're doing new things.
I think it's the, I'm just suddenly taken by my own soundbite, like slow change and fast change. It's almost like the two-speed IT. There's two-speed business. And actually, by trying to make either the slow business move very fast or the fast business have a lot of controls, there's a problem in there, which is why actually for a lot of the next generation proposition stuff that we're doing for clients, we have sort of separated it out, because there is some kind of separation that's needed in that two-speed business view.
And banking isn't the first to witness this. I mean, General Electric famously have become much more of a software business than they are just pure power equipment business. So for a long time, they had a legacy business. And over the years, of course, their revenue lines on that business had started to dip. But they recognized this early and built another business up alongside it. And over a decade, couple of decades, you see that corporate innovation can work. And it's very rare that that works, because typically this thing over here competes with the legacy P&Ls. So selecting what a new business is and how you build growth is really important. And you've got to think about an organization. What is its growth story? It can't just be about cost reduction and efficiency forever. It has to grow. So,
question two.
Great, so we've got a couple of anonymous questions that have been sent in. If you don't feel comfortable putting your name to a question, then please do just email us on, correct me if I'm wrong, fin@11fs.com, I believe. And we will also read them out and obviously not mention your name. So question one from Anonymous is, how can I deliver new fintech solutions to the B2B sphere of real value across borders without being of mercy to the big banks' corporate world?
Ooh. So it seems like a sensible question, but actually it's just very abstract, because B2B encompasses a whole, like just such a broad spectrum of potential solutions. So to me, I'm reminded a bit of of a book from way back in like early 2000s, The Beer Mat Entrepreneur. And it was this book with essentially 3 questions on the front. The entire book was about, like, let's simplify business down a bit. We just make it all a little bit too complex. And The Beer Mat Entrepreneur had like 3 steps. 1, like, what's your pitch? There was nothing in that question that was a value proposition that made me go, oh, that's interesting. It was like B2B payments, how can we do so? It's like, well, I don't know, that's a massive area. Second thing was, who's your first client? So rather than disrupting B2B across the world, okay, that's a business to a business. Who is that? Like, who can you find in order to implement it? What's the smallest way of doing that? It's finding 2 businesses that need to send money to each other and then finding out a way of doing that. And the third tip, which always was interested me, was find a mentor. Find someone who knows that or has been through it or can actually point you at the ways that things go right or go wrong, and so that you can go back and forth with. So rather than it being, you know, us getting into such big strategic questions, I think it's just a case of simplifying it down from a startup perspective, or even from a new proposition for a big bank perspective. Like, what's the pitch? What's the value? What's the value exchange here? Who are the first customers to try it with? And then who's done it that we can talk to and make sure it works? Because I guess that ties in pretty well with some of your blockchain proof of concepts that you've been doing.
Absolutely. So the start small, think big cliche exists for a reason, and a lot of people trope that out without actually doing it.
Trope, that's a good verb.
Yeah, I think that's the incorrect verb though. I think it's supposed to roll it out. I'm not entirely sure what the correct adjective was, in fact, because I know our word nerd is bothered for is it an adjective, is it a verb? We're going down a rabbit hole here. So the start small piece in B2B is absolutely possible. Actually, rather than trying to boil the ocean, rather than trying to solve for international, cross-border of all the people in all the places, you don't know if it works yet. You don't know if the customer's going to buy it. Like, the key word that was used in the question was proposition. Does somebody want to buy the proposition? Okay, great. We'll build enough of it for them to buy it, and then it will fund itself, and you can solve the problems as they go, taking a startup approach. If you were trying to integrate to everybody's legacy systems in the big banks, I think what's behind this question is, in order to do FX generally, you have to integrate with the big banks. And the alternatives are the likes of a currency cloud, which actually abstract the problem but create cost. You're not really getting serious FX margin. And the alternative to that is very nascent, emerging stuff in the blockchain space that hasn't really proven itself, but might do. But again, with all of these, step in some do. Like, I think we live in a complex world in which action is actually the most important thing that you need to do. In fact, it's not even complex, it's chaotic. You need to take action, and then the proposition you test as you go, rather than going, I need the perfect proposition before I can start to get the PowerPoint pack together to the strategy team so that they can take it to, like, that's not going to be what gives you your answer. And again, it goes back to the first question, are you trying to build a brilliant new B2B proposition on the existing business, or are you just trying to find if customers want to buy the thing? And if customers want to buy the thing and the P&L's there, do.
Question 3.
Perfect. So next question from Anonymous is someone who works for a tier 1 European bank. How can I destroy the corporate culture from within and phoenix my way to a customer first and all will follow mindset?
Oh, I love that.
For me, this ties into that first question. It's like, why destroy a culture of a phenomenally profitable business? Again, there's this, I think there's an interesting question about a singular culture versus different cultures. Quite often in our speeches and some of the work we do, we talk about the conventional army and special forces. They're very different cultures, very different types of people, doing very different types of jobs. So on one hand, if you're pushing on driving costs out of the business, bringing more customers in to something that's a mature big business, then that should keep on. There should be a culture that makes that work. But at the same time, you've got to know that we've got this transition from digitized to digital, from commodity products to intelligence services, from channels to end-to-end journeys. There's this new business model, a new digital world coming that actually you need to hedge, you need to get into. So I think for me, that you don't need to destroy the old culture in order to gain the new. Actually, it is about having cultures that are appropriate for the kind of activity you're trying to do.
And I think there's something implied there that there's a very ambitious character that's feeling held back. And frankly, you've got to ask the question, is the old organization with its culture the right place to flex those skills? And actually, I'm not going to say no, it's not. As somebody who has probably always had a bit of a startup mentality, I've worked in a lot of corporates and picked up a lot of knowledge that's now very, very useful, that I know how various payment systems work, that I've been on the front line with regulators, that I've been doing delivery, I've done proposition stuff inside a bank. I know how a bank operates and thinks in some jurisdictions, in some places, not everywhere, and it's not exhaustive, and there are people far better at that than me. But that sort of skill set will serve you well. And have a think about the opportunities. FinTech is a growing sector. Who's out there that you could ally yourself with? What are the networking events that are out there? What are the books you could read or download on Audible that can give you the skill set you need to actually go build it yourself? Because if the organization's not doing it, maybe you can.
Good.
Okay, next question. As a small non-UK European niche bank considering getting involved with a blockchain developer for the first time, what are the major pitfalls to avoid? Would like to be able to learn from others' mistakes.
I think that's the first thing, learn from others' mistakes. The great thing with a lot of banks is they've been trying to do blockchain stuff for a while, but a lot of them haven't started small. We're coming back to the same theme. They haven't done a thing and then learned from it and seen if a customer wants to buy it. They've done a lot of thinking, done a lot of research, done a lot of development, but actually there's no end product. And I think there's something where the tech is probably still a little bit early. The open source permissionless world is hard to use, but 2018 is really opportune timing. So if I was making a pitch to senior management in a bank right now about should they be looking at all things blockchain, I think actually a lot of the banks have already done the hard yards figuring out what works in different sectors for them. So there's a complex kind of landscape of things that we call blockchain that are actually a toolbox of different solutions. And if you really want to do trade finance solutions, there's a whole bunch of fintechs out there that you could look at working with and learning from. There's a whole bunch of propositions that you could test with customers and get things live. Maybe you want to look at capital markets, maybe you want to look at payments, maybe you want to look at KYC, AML, but whatever that area is, pick a few things, try and get some customers using it and get to the pilot quickly. But also think about, how do I support that on the back end? Because I think we've seen a lot of pilots that haven't gotten any further. And if you have an answer to the question, here's the customer that's going to buy this thing, here's how I'm going to get this thing live, you get a lot more support around that. So do the research, try and step in some do, and get things done.
Makes sense. So
our last question is from Barb McLean. If the team were to vote, what's the best part about their job at 11FS? What's the best part of your guys' jobs?
Short answer, the people. I think I get to come to work every single day and bump into some incredible people doing amazing things. I mean, being involved with a media team that does this sort of stuff, I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd be involved with such a great media team. A research team that surprised me with, hey, have you seen this? And I'm like, no, I haven't, that's incredible. A consulting team that are building and doing things with some really world-class talent. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the possibilities in front of us. We're a growing organization. We're not always going to get everything right, but I love that challenge. I love that challenge of like, oh, can I fix this? Can I change that? And that autonomy of being able to go, maybe this fits here, that goes there, is something that for me is the most enjoyable thing. And I think second to that is solving a problem for somebody and showing them that there is another way, that actually what they've been doing for so long isn't wrong, but if you want to do efficiency, keep doing it. But if you want to do new, maybe there's a different way of thinking.
I've always measured the jobs that I did or the companies I've started or consulting contracts against three things: against profit, enjoyment, and impact. And so it's always been sort of a combination of like, how does this really make business sense? Is it really going to line the coffers? Is it going to make money? Is it going to impact lots of people in the world in a positive way? Does it really make that dent in the universe? And what's the day-to-day like? Do I enjoy working there? And so I think, you know, we're probably the wrong people to ask, because we put the organisation together, we've recruited people so that everyone can actually enjoy working in small autonomous teams in order to make things work. The day-to-day is really like activity and team-driven, building stuff, making stuff happen, rather than as Gary was talking about earlier, sort of dying in committee, that there is this digital transformation need and a need for highly talented people to come together in order to drive something. And those things that we're driving are big, impactful projects. So I think it ticks those boxes for me, where previously there have been different things I've been involved in where there's maybe 2 out of the 3 you get, and it's a different 2 or 3 no matter what.
Just a couple sort of internally I've got listed here, which is the chance to actually get stuff done and be the change, which I think is absolutely excellent. And also working with some very smart people, building interesting and useful things with the freedom to use right tools for the job rather than some IT department telling us how it works. I think that's a really good answer.
There's some banking PTSD going on there, isn't there? You could sense some suffering coming to the surface.
Which was one of our questions earlier. I think there was a bit of banking PTSD in whomever that Phoenix was. I feel you.
That's all we've got today. So thank you so much for submitting your questions. Please keep them coming.
Yes, definitely. It's really good fun to hear the questions that you guys have, and to offer just a few thoughts from our perspective as we go and talk to banks, as we build new propositions and talk to different people in the world. So stretch us, give us those difficult questions you're wrestling with, or indeed reach out on Twitter or come to fintechinsidernews.com and get involved in a conversation with us.
Sounds good. I think we should do all of those things that he said.
Thanks, guys.
I look forward to seeing you soon. Take care, guys.